Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced to the world today that he has intelligence showing Iran is, quote, brazenly lying about its nuclear weapons program, that it's keeping an atomic archive at a secret compound, and that the deal with the nation is, quote, based on lies. In response, Trump told the media that the future U.S. role in that deal is still unclear.
So we'll see what happens. I'm not telling you what I'm doing, but a lot of people think they know.
We'll see what happens. Nearly word for word, the same stance the president took on North Korea negotiations over the weekend.
But we'll see how it goes. And again, whatever happens, happens.
That's what you want to hear about a nuclear arsenal. Trump made those last comments, by the way, at an event in Washington Township, Michigan, telling the crowd he'd much rather be there than in Washington, D.C., where the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner was being held. And many say he made the right decision after comedian Michelle Wolf delivered what may have been the most controversial roast since Don Imus took on the Clintons back in '96. Sure, it started off innocently enough.
Just a reminder to everyone, I'm here to make jokes. I have no agenda. I'm not trying to get anything accomplished. So everyone that's here from Congress, you should feel right at home.
But things quickly took a turn.
Mike Pence is also very anti-choice. He thinks abortion is murder, which, first of all, don't knock it till you try it. And when you do try it, really knock it. You know, you got to get that baby out of there.
And then there was this bit about the press secretary that got everyone talking.
I actually really like Sarah. I think she's very resourceful. Like, she burns facts, and then she uses that ash to create a perfect smoky eye. Like, maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's lies. And I'm never really sure what to call Sarah Huckabee Sanders. You know, is it Sarah Sanders? Is it Sarah Huckabee Sanders? Is it Cousin Huckabee? Is it Auntie Huckabee Sanders? Like, what's Uncle Tom but for white women who disappoint other white women? Oh, I know, Aunt Coulter.
The president, of course, took to Twitter, calling the event an embarrassment, referring to Wolf as a filthy comedian who totally bombed. He also said we should put the dinner to rest. So, should we, or should we be celebrating Wolf as a truth teller? Joined by Margery Egan, my Boston Public Radio co-host and columnist with the Boston Globe. Hi, Margery.
Hello, Jim.
And Dan Lothian, founder and president of Little Park Media and former CNN White House correspondent who attended multiple correspondent dinners. Dan, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here. I just went to the New York Times website to look at the comments. This is typical. Was it disgraceful or an exercise in afflicting the comfortable, or was it both?
Ah, boy, I think it was more disgraceful than anything. Certainly,
Why so?
There's a level. Well, you know, these things have been sort of sliding down the slippery slope. You're supposed to be there and be edgy in order to excite everyone, but it always kind of goes up to that line, but never quite across it. And this one felt very much like it crossed that line. I got a lot of different texts and emails from former colleagues and friends in the business who all kind of had that same sentiment, that they felt that it just went too far.
Is it relevant that, at least in my estimation, the president, as candidate or president, has gone even farther with Megyn Kelly, Rosie O'Donnell, Hillary Clinton, Serge Kovaleski at the New York Times? Does that matter, or are they apples and oranges?
I think it's apples and oranges. And you know, especially now at a time, you could almost say, well, yes, a few years ago, maybe you could get away with something like this. But there is this certain climate now in the country, and everyone is looking at what reporters are doing, what journalists are doing in general. And something like this just feeds into that negative narrative that is spreading not only across the country, but around the world.
So there's one reviewer. Reviewer number two, what was your take?
Well, I have to admit that I was watching Wedding Crashers, a movie I've seen about 75 times, and competing. And this thing was supposed to start at 9:30. I turned it to 9:30. Everybody's milling about it. I went back to Wedding Crashers. I go back in. This woman is still talking. The woman from Bloomberg News. She's
the president of the
she starts talking. I go back to Wedding Crashers. I think she talked for at least 20 minutes or half an hour.
Did I ask you about her? I can't remember.
Well, no, but it just said they started really late, and then Michelle Wolf comes on, and
you think she crossed the line? He does.
I just didn't think she was that funny. I just didn't think she was that funny. And she was tough to listen to. This may be sexist of me, but her voice was killing me. So I went back and looked at the clips today. I think it is a time, you know, you think of the great journalism that's going on, and I know the one from Bloomberg News talked about that. But to see all these reporters sitting there listening to this, even though a lot of them weren't laughing very hard, it didn't do anything. I think Peter Baker, the guy from the New York Times, said it right. This did not help journalism that's under siege right now. And you think of the people that were killed in Kabul, and you think of all the people that were killed overseas. You think of the great journalism you see every day in the Boston Globe, the New York Times. I wish we had looked at that more and this stuff less.
Masha Gessen did a variation on that. With obscene humor, though, she came to the other conclusion. Wolf exposed the obscenity of the industry's fictions. The reporters and their subjects can socialize and yet maintain enough distance to perform their professional roles. And here's what Michelle Wolf actually said about the very same topic.
You guys are obsessed with Trump. Did you used to date him? Because you pretend like you hate him, but I think you love him. I think what no one in this room wants to admit is that Trump has helped all of you.
CNN went in your day. You went 4 times, I think you told me. CNN continues to go. Did you ever have thoughts like Peter Baker or like Masha Gessen when you were there?
No, I think, well, the first time I got to go, this was this huge event that I had seen from the outside for so long, and so I wanted to be part of it. And not only just that event, but all the parties that happened afterwards. And
one honest man.
No, I have to say, you're working it. You want to get into all of the parties. And, maybe the second year, but there was, I think the controversy at the time was that this was becoming more about Hollywood than about the reporters. And some of the things that dinner was, and that week was all about, which I participated in, was having these events with young people, trying to encourage other young up-and-coming journalists by talking to them and answering their questions. And that's what it was all about. And we were losing a lot of it, because I think the second time I went was when somebody from Hollywood put together one of these gift bag places where you can go and get
big time swag.
Big time, not just at the parties, but you go to a swag room.
But how about the issue that Marjorie raised, that Gessen talked about, that Baker talked about, that it's an unholy relationship between people where there should be an antagonistic is probably, at least an adversarial relationship, when people are laughing together, drinking together, singing together, chanting back at Michelle Wolf together. It doesn't bother you?
No, that part has never really bothered me, because that's what Washington is all about. It's kind of this fake friendships that you have. Everybody has an agenda. You're trying to get a source to give you information. That source is trying to use you somehow. And so there's always been this weird dating act that takes place inside Washington, and we understand the rules. But this is, I think this goes beyond that now.
Can I go back to what you said, some great reporters are being honored? One of the reporters who was honored the other night was Maggie Haberman, who wasn't there because of an illness in the family. Great New York Times reporter who has covered this White House brilliantly. But I was stunned. Here's her tweet after the criticism or the jokes about Sarah Huckabee Sanders. That press secretary sat and absorbed intense criticism of her physical appearance, her job performance, and so forth. Instead of walking out on national television, was impressive. 2 things. One, she was there because Donald Trump was not there. She was there as his proxy, sitting in his seat. 2, she is defending the woman who essentially, and I'm thinking, lies to the press and the American people, and with a virtually every single day.
And with a very dismissive and nasty tone toward a lot of great reporters. But I think she misunderstood, as I misunderstood, that the line from...
Smoky eye thing?
Not the smoky eye thing. She was burning fat instead of facts.
Yeah.
I think that because so many people said that her appearance was criticized, and no one was criticizing her appearance, really, as it turns out. But I think a lot of us made that mistake because there was some confusion there. But not Michelle, but Sanders, I can't believe she does what she does every day.
You know, both you touched a minute ago. There's a headline, Axios headline, Media Hands Trump Big Embarrassing Win. Mike Allen's story. Is Mike Allen right? Does this Wolf performance essentially give a gift to Trump and his supporters?
I do think so. And you have to remember now, things don't necessarily play out in their entirety. So people aren't saying, well, let's look at the balance of that entire speech and find both the good and the bad. It's whatever goes viral, what gets shared, and it's those few couple of sound bites that come out of that sketch, if you will, that's getting all the attention.
On the other hand, let's not forget that Trump is going after women's appearance over and over and over again. The women that accused him of sexual harassment. Oh, he says, you think I'd go for that? That wouldn't be my choice.
Rosie O'Donnell, Megyn Kelly, list
but
is
we
endless.
shouldn't stoop. But that's the thing. I don't think that reporters should stoop to whatever level is out there. And by bringing someone like that on board, then you're you're in essence, at least your critics will say, well, that's just who you folks are, right?
We only have a minute left. Can we go to one other performance? Donald Trump performs, for lack of, I don't mean that disrespectfully, in Washington County, Michigan, right before this dinner. When he mentions North Korea, here's the chant from the thousands in the crowd. The president responds by saying the word Nobel. Look at the look on your face. Very nice. Barack Obama won a Nobel Peace Prize when I think most people, including Obama, would agree he had done virtually nothing except talk the talk. Is it laughable to suggest that Donald Trump, by bringing Kim Jong-un to the table, shouldn't be in the running as well?
Well, I think he's going to do more than bring him to the table, because as we know that Kim Jong-un has said these things, his grandfather said these things,
that's true.
Made these promises that have fallen apart at least twice. So if he gets somewhere, I mean, I'm no fan of Donald Trump, but if he gets somewhere, I think he deserves huge credit. I'm not sure he should be backing out of the Iran deal, no matter what the Israeli Prime Minister just said.
Nobel?
Look, I was there with President Obama when I was in Oslo, Norway. We were on the ground for just 48 hours, and that's where I attended the ice bar. The first time I was in the ice bar there. Yeah, it was great. With a
You've
big
been everywhere, Dan.
But that was an interesting event because the whole narrative there was, why is he getting this? And it was all about, it was aspirational, right? He was getting that award because everyone thought he was going to do so much. And I think his critics, and even some who aren't his critics, will say he didn't quite live up to it. In this particular case, I agree with you. I mean, if at the end of the day there's some kind of peace deal that he can get more than that. I mean, he can go down as, no, I won't go that far. But he can. I was going to say great as something, but no. I think you have to wait and see how it all pans out. But it's certainly when you see someone who is crazy and now they're scared that maybe somebody else may do something that they didn't even expect any human being would do, it could rattle them, and there may be some results coming out of it.
If he wins, she'll need an EMT. Nice to see you, Marjorie, tomorrow morning at 11, Dan.
Good to see you.
Thanks so much for your time.